Okay, before actually going into today's problems or whatever the questions we'll discuss, can anyone tell me what are the, do you remember the definition of continuity of a function at a point? So what are the three things you have to check? Just we'll refresh things, whatever we had studied, and then we can go. So what are the three conditions which you have to, what are the three conditions which you have to check whether a function is continuous at a point or not? Set x is equal to c. So what are the three things you have to check? What are the three things? What are the three things, students? Yeah, f of x exists. That is, f of c exists. Okay, you have to check whether f of c exists. Okay, first point. Then, what is the second thing you have to find? What is the second point you have to find? Limit f of x. Good. So, limit f of x as x tends to c exists or not. Okay, what is the third condition? What is the third condition? Both are equal. You have to check whether f of c is equal to limit f of x as x tends to c. Okay. So this is how you prove a given function is continuous at a point. Okay. So if it fails any of these conditions, any of these three conditions, if it fails, what we can conclude then? What we can conclude if it fails any of these three conditions? It is discontinuous at that point. Yeah, limit does not exist is not the answer. It is discontinuous is the answer. Okay, discontinuous is the answer. Okay, so then this is at the point. At a point check ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ we have to verify these conditions. Suppose entire domain, if we are given, check the continuity of the function. They have not mentioned any point or anything as such. So what you have to do? What is the first thing you have to do? Entire domain ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, check whether the function is continuous or not. ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ. So what you have to do? First thing, what you have to do, students? You have done problems regarding these things many. So what you have to do? What is the first thing you have to do? ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಗೆ? Yeah, you have to take a c, correct? Let c be any real number. Okay, you have to take c be any real number. Okay, you have to take a c and you have to check these condition at this point. Correct? ಒಂದು entire domain ಅಲ್ಲಿ check ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? You take a random number, say c, and then you check the definition of the continuous function at this point. Okay, and then what you can conclude? If it is continuous at this point, what you will conclude? What do you conclude, students? ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ವಿಲ್ ಜನರಲೈಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ಯು ಗೋ ಅಬೌಟ್. ಅಟ್ ಅ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಯ್ತು. ಸಪೋಸ್ ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಚೆಕ್ ದ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಟಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ರಿಯಲ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆ ರಿಯಲ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಲ್ವೋ ಹೌದು ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಚೆಕ್ ವೆದರ್ ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಟ್ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್, ದೆನ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜನರಲೈಸ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್. Okay, the function is continuous everywhere. So this is how you check the continuity. Okay, so now moving on, today's question, the first question, find the relationship between a and b so that the function f defined by, okay, you have to define the relationship between a and b. Okay, that is how a and b are related. So how the function is defined? Can you hear me now? Okay, fine. Okay, so how the function is defined? F of x is equal to, here you have to find a relationship between a and b. Okay, you have to find a relationship between a and b, which means a ಮತ್ತೆ b ಹೇಗೆ relate ಆಗಿದೆ? What is the relationship between a and b? But how you will define? They have given the function. How the function is given? F of x is ax plus 1. Okay, f of x is ax plus 1 if x is less than or equal to 3, and it is bx plus 3. Okay, it is bx plus 3 if x is greater than 3. Okay, you have to find the relationship between a and b. In kottidare function is continuous at x is equal to 3 anta avare helidare. They have only told that this particular function, this function is continuous. Okay, this function is continuous at x is equal to 3. Okay, this function is continuous at x is equal to 3. Yeah, so what you have to do, avare helidare function continuous anta. Okay, so when what are the three conditions you have to check for the continuity? F of c exists. Okay, limit f of x as x tends to c exists. Okay, and then you have to check whether f of c is equal to limit f of x as x tends to c. Both are equal. You have to check these three conditions. Idu continuous haudo alvo anta check ಮಾಡಿ. But already ಅವರು ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, function continuous ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. If it is continuous, what does that mean? If it is continuous, what does that mean? Automatically, it satisfies these three conditions, correct? This function is continuous at x is equal to 3 means it satisfies these three conditions, correct? It satisfies these three conditions. Do you agree with this, students? Do you agree with this? Yes. Okay, function continuous ಅಂತ ಅವರೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So ಈ three conditions satisfy ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲಿ satisfy ಆಗಬೇಕು? At x is equal to 3. So what is the value of c here? C is equal to, what is the value of c here, students? C is 3. So what is f? So ಈ ಮೂರು condition satisfy ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ we know we need to find all these values. So what is f of 3? What is f of 3? What is f of 3? Which definition I have to use at x is equal to 3? The first one or the second one? The first one I have to use. So wherever I have x, I have to replace it by 3. So what I'll get? A into 3 plus 1, which is 3a minus 1. Okay, 3a plus 1. Okay, I got 3a plus 1. First definition use ಮಾಡಬೇಕು because x less than or equal to 3 ಇದ್ದಾಗ f of x ax plus 1. ಅಂದ್ರೆ if x is less than 3 or if it is equal to 3, the value of the function is ax plus 1. Okay, so if I find f of 3, what I got it as 3a plus 1. But idrinda a ಮತ್ತೆ b the relationship ಸಿಕ್ತಾ ನಿಮಗೆ? Did you get the relationship between a and b? Just by this, can you get the relation between a and b? No. So one thing you have, you keep it as it is. Next, what else we can do? They have told limit exists. Correct? Function is continuous anta helidre limit exists. Okay, limit also exists. Function is continuous at x is equal to 3 means it should satisfy the second condition as well. Howda? Function continuous adre second condition kuda satisfy ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. What is the second condition? Limit f of x as x tends to 3 exists. Okay, the second condition is limit f of x as x tends to 3 exists. But do we have to go for left hand limit and right hand limit over here? Whether we have to go search what is left hand limit, right hand limit, then we have to check whether the limit. Yes. Why? Because x less than 3 idaga the function is different and x greater than 3 idaga function is different. So you have to find what is left hand limit and you have to find what is right hand limit. Since we know that limit exists, what we can conclude, left hand limit should be equal to right hand limit. So we'll see whether we'll get some answer or not, whether we can get some relationship between a and b. Okay, so what is left hand limit? Limit f of x tends to 3 from the left. So which definition I have to use over here, students? Which definition I have to use? The first one. So that is ax plus 1 as x tends to 3 from the left. That is, you are taking a value less than 3. So which is approximately equal to 3a plus 1. Okay. Okay. Now find what is right hand limit. Right hand limit is limit f of x tends to 3 from the right, that is equal to limit. Which definition I have to use? You are taking x value is greater than 3. So you have to use the second definition. So that is bx plus 3 as x tends to 3 from the right. From the right means you are taking a value which is slightly greater than 3. Okay, you are taking a value which is greater than 3, not very much greater than 3. Immediate next number you are taking. Okay, so that becomes approximately equal to 3b plus 3. Okay, that is equal to 3b plus 3. Okay, so I have left hand limit, I have right hand limit. What next? What should I do, or what I have so that I can use these things? What next, students? What should be done next? Yes, good, Nithya Lakshmi. We have to write LHL is equal to RHL. Why LHL is equal to RHL? Okay, Nithya Lakshmi is saying that now we can use LHL is equal to RHL. Why we can use that? Why we can use that? Why we can use that? Yeah, because limit exists. Good. Because ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ? Function is continuous at x is equal to 3. Yes, for Dikshita. Function is continuous at x is equal to 3 means it should satisfy these three conditions at x is equal to 3. Adral second condition ಏನು? Limit f of x as x tends to 3 exists. Yeah. So, which means limit exists means left hand limit should be equal to right hand limit. So, equate these two. Equate left hand limit and right hand limit. So what is the relationship between A and B? So can anyone give me the answer? You don't have to go to polynomial function is continuous and all. Adala beda nanige A matte B naduve iruva relationship ಬೇಕು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. So what will I get? I'll take A and B. I'll keep A and B together. So what I'll get? 3A minus 3B is equal to 3. This plus 1, if you take it to the other side, you'll get 3 minus 1. So 3 into, you can see in the left hand side, 3 is common, 3a minus 3b is there. So 3 is common. So what is remaining? A minus b is equal to 2. So what is a minus b? What is the relationship between a and b, students? What is the relationship between a and b? A minus b is equal to 2 by 3. Okay, that means what is A? What is A? A is equal to B plus 2 by 3. So this is your answer. A is equal to B plus 2 by 3. Hope you have got the answer. So what we those who are writing, you just take it down. Till then I'll explain it again. So they have told us that function is continuous at x is equal to 3. Function is continuous means it should satisfy these three conditions. F of c exists, that is f of 3 exists, limit f of x as x tends to 3 exists, and both are equal. So we'll start with the first condition, that is f of 3. If I write f of 3, I will get it as 3a plus 1. But that is of no use because I need a relationship between a and b. Okay, so we'll go to the second condition. What is the second condition? Limit f of x as x tends to 3 exists. So, but here if you see the definition of the function, you can see that there is a variation in the function near to c. If it is greater than c, the function is defined in one way, and if it is less than c, the function is defined in another way. So we have to go for left hand limit and right hand limit. So we found what is left hand limit, what is right hand limit. Okay, since we know that limit exists, that means left hand limit should be equal to right hand limit. By using that, we deducted the relationship between A and B. Hope you have taken this. Is this clear, students? Yes. Okay, so we'll move on. Those who have not taken, you can take a screenshot and later you can write. Okay. Yeah. So far we have discussed some problems. Now we need a theory, a bit of theory, not much, a bit of theory, because to study the further things, we need a bit of theory. Okay, so for that, you need to learn what is algebra of functions. Okay, algebra of functions. So what do you mean by algebra? What do you mean by algebra? Algebra. Algebra of continuous functions. Algebra is nothing but you have to find what happens with a plus b, a minus b, and all those things. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you have to find what is, suppose you have two functions. Okay. Suppose you have two continuous functions, f and g are continuous. Okay. Then what happens? Continuous at x is equal to c. Okay. At some x is equal to c. Okay. Some point c, both function f and function g are continuous. Andre, f is continuous at x is equal to c, and g is also continuous at x is equal to c. Then what about f plus g? So what happens with f plus g? So whether it is continuous or not. So this theorem, what it says is, if you have two real functions f and g, and which is continuous at some particular point, say c, then even their sum is also continuous. That is, f plus g is also continuous. F minus g is also continuous. And if you take the product, that is also continuous. And the quotient form, that is f by g, is also continuous. So this is what theorem 1 says. If you have two continuous functions which is continuous at a particular point, say x is equal to c, then their sum, difference, product, and quotient, both all four of these are continuous at that particular point, provided only in the fourth g of c should not be equal to 0. Provided g of c is not equal to 0. So we need to prove this. Okay, what I'll do, I'll prove for f plus g. The rest of the things you have to take it as homework. Okay. Okay. So now you have to prove this theorem. They have told us the statement. Now we need proof, right? We cannot believe things without proof. So we need proof for certain things. There are, in mathematics, there are certain things which are assumed, which cannot be proved. Those are called as axioms. So when you have theorem, which means it has proof. Theorem anta helidre, it has proof. Okay. So now f and g are continuous real functions at x is equal to c. So f is continuous. Okay. F is continuous at x is equal to c. Similarly, g is continuous at x is equal to c. Okay, f is also continuous and g is also continuous. So what do you mean by f is continuous? What does that mean? F continuous agidre, what we can conclude at x is equal to c? What we can make out from this, if f is continuous at x is equal to c, yeah, it satisfies three conditions, correct? That is, f of c exists, limit f of x as x tends to c exists, and both are equal, correct? So it satisfies the three conditions. Similarly, your g also is continuous at x is equal to c. So g also satisfies the three conditions. Okay, g also satisfies those three conditions. Now you have to check whether f plus g, the product, not product, sorry, the sum f plus g, whether it satisfies these three conditions. So what are the conditions? F of c exists, and f plus g of c exists, limit of f plus g of x as x tends to c exists, and you have to check whether both are equal. Okay, to show f plus g is continuous, you have to check these three conditions. That is, f plus g of c exists, limit of f plus g of x exists, and both are equal. Okay, so we'll verify the first thing. What is first thing? You have to find what is f plus g of c. What is f plus g of c? What is f plus g of c, students? What is f plus g of c? What is f plus g of c? It is, yes, it is f of c plus g of c, correct? Correct. Is it correct, students? Yes, good, Alnas. So f plus g of c is nothing but f of c plus g of c. Why? Because this we have studied in our function in first PUC. First PUC function. Suppose if you have f of x is equal to x and g of x is equal to root x iddaga, we had asked you to find what is f plus g of x. Correct? Do you remember this algebra of functions? So what we used to do there? We used to split it up. That is f of x plus g of x anta baritidvi. F of x andre it is x plus root x. Do you remember this? Do you remember this, students? We had studied this, right? And this was also mentioned. Yes. So the same property we have applied here. So f plus g of c is nothing but f of c plus g of c. Okay. So from that, what we can conclude, since already f is continuous and g is also continuous at x is equal to c, f of c and g of c clearly exist. Correct? F of c and g of c clearly exist. Do you agree? Do you agree with the students? ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ f is continuous at c ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, g is continuous at c ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. They have told that f and g are continuous at x is equal to c, which means it satisfies the first condition. What is the first condition? F of c exists and g of c exists. Okay, so if you see here clearly, f of c is a exist means it is a number, it is a finite number. Similarly, g of c is also a finite number. So when you add two finite number, what you will get as an answer? When you add two finite number, what you will get as an answer? ಎರಡು finite number add ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ? What you will get as an answer? If you are adding two finite numbers, it is a finite. It's not zero. Again, you'll get a finite number. See, suppose if you add 3 and 2, 3 and 2 are finite numbers. So when you add 3 and 2, what you'll get? You'll get 5. Again, 5 is a finite number, which means a definite number. You know that number, correct? So that is what. So clearly, f plus g of x exists. So the first condition is satisfied. Now you have to go for the second condition. What is the second condition? Limit f plus g of x exists or not as x tends to c. Okay, you have to check this, whether this is true or not. That is, limit f plus g of x as x tends to c. This particular limit exists or not. So before going into this, we had discussed something related to limits. So if you have sum of two limits, limit f plus g of x as x tends to c, if you have to find the sum of the limits, then it is nothing but limit of the sum. Do you remember this? It is nothing but limit f plus limit g. Correct? We used to write it in this form. Similarly, here you can apply that. So what happens? We'll get it as limit f of x as x tends to c plus limit g of x as x tends to c. Okay, we can limit of the sum is equal to sum of the limits. So we have applied that over here. So now you apply the limit as x tends to c. Limit f of x is nothing but f of c, and this is nothing but g of c. X is the c in the replace ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. This we do, right? So if you have limit f of x as x tends to c ಅಂತ ಇದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? x ಇದ್ದ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ c ಇಂದ replace ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. So that is f of c plus g of c. Clearly this exists. Okay? Clearly this exists. So from 1 and 2, what you can conclude? From 1 and 2, what you can conclude, students? Whether both are equal? Yes, both are equal. If both are equal, what does that mean? If both are equal, what does that mean? F plus g is continuous. Good. If both are equal, that means the given function is continuous. Here the given function is f plus g. Okay, f plus g is continuous. Similarly, you can try with f minus g, f into g, and f by g. Okay, this you can take it as homework, students, because this is very simple. You just have to apply the things which we have studied in our first PUC. Functions and limits. Only those things you have to apply and you'll get the answer. Okay, is that fine, students? So you have to remember, if you have two continuous functions, their sum is continuous at that particular point, and their difference is continuous at that particular point, and then their product is continuous, and then their quotient is also continuous. You have to remember this at that particular point. ಆ ಎರಡು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅದೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. Okay, this is true only if the function is continuous at same point. Only then we can apply this theorem. Okay. So now next, as a consequence of this theorem, it's theorem in a consequence again here. We know that if f and g are continuous, okay, if f and g are continuous at x is equal to c, then their sum is continuous, their product is continuous, and their difference is continuous, and f by g is also continuous, correct? So now, suppose if I take f of x is some constant, okay, if I have f of x is some constant, what does that mean, students? Whether constant function is continuous? Do you remember what did I say about constant function? Yes. So constant function is continuous everywhere. And I take a function g of x, some function which is continuous. Okay, continuous at some point x is equal to 3 or not. Okay, some point I have taken randomly. So I have taken two functions. First function is a constant function which you know it is continuous everywhere. Correct? Constant function is always continuous, that is in the entire domain it is continuous. Then I have taken another function g of x which is continuous at x is equal to 3. Okay, which is continuous at x is equal to 3. So can I say that f and g are continuous at x is equal to 3? Can I say this? F and g are continuous at x is equal to 3? Yes, because constant function is continuous everywhere, correct? Constant function ella kade is continuous. So you don't have to specify a particular point. But then g is continuous at x is equal to 3. So which means you can conclude that f and g are continuous. So if f and g are continuous, what is f into g? What about the product? What about the product? Whether it is continuous at x is equal to 3? Whether it is continuous at x is equal to 3? Yes, it is continuous at x is equal to 3. So from this what you can conclude is, but what is f? F is some constant, correct? F is some constant, that is 5. 5 into g is continuous, correct? 5 into g is continuous. So if I have two functions, ಎರಡು function on the particular point ಅಲ್ಲಿ continuous ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರ product ಕೂಡ continuous, correct? That you agree because we had a theorem, the proof of which you will give me later. Okay. So if you have two functions which is continuous at a particular point, then their product is continuous, correct? Out of those two functions, if one function is my constant, ಒಂದು ನನ್ನ constant function ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, if my one function is a constant function, then that function into another function is also continuous. That is 5 into g of x is also continuous by this property. Okay, so hereafter if you have a function g and if you have to multiply by some constant, say lambda, if you have to multiply by some constant lambda, then without taking a minute you can say that lambda into g of x is continuous at x is equal to c. Okay, at x is equal to c. Okay, so if you have a constant into a function which is continuous at a particular point, the product is always continuous. So that is what you have to remember. So on constant matte innond function which is continuous at a particular point idre, if you do the product, that is also continuous at x is equal to c. Did you understand that, students? Okay, fine. Okay, this is your next question. Prove that every rational function is continuous. So what do you mean by rational function? Can anyone tell me what is rational function? All these things we have discussed in our first period. We had discussed about all these things, rational functions and all. What is rational function? Rational function is not a real number. Rational function. No, that is not the correct answer. Think, rational function. Let me see who will give me the answer. Rational function. Okay, what is rational number? Leave about the function. Rational number. Rational number. What is the form of rational number? Rational number. Yeah, P by Q, correct. P by Q is a rational number where Q is not equal to 0. Correct. This is the condition for rational number. Then what is rational function? You have only told me the definition now, which contains the rational number. No, rational function. Yakidu rational number anta now ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. Why we are telling this is a rational number? Because it is in the form P by Q. Okay, because we can write a number in the, if we can write a number in the P by Q form, only then we call it as a, and where Q is not equal to 0, then we call it as a rational function. Okay, then we call it as a rational function. Sorry, rational number. Now, what is rational function? Rational function. Yeah, if it is in a ratio form, good. Suppose you have two functions, f of x and g of x. Okay, f of x and g of x. For example, if you have a function f of x, okay, if you have a function f of x, okay, and if you can write this particular function, if you can write it in the form p of x by q of x. Okay, one function kottidare, they have given you some function f of x, they have given you some function f of x, and if you can write it in the form p of x by q of x. Okay, our function one function divided by another function. If you can write it in this form, some function divided by some other function gives you f of x. For example, if your f of x is x cube, okay, if your f of x is x cube, can I write f of x as x power 4 by x? Can I write f of x as x power 4 by x? Just take, what is x power 4 by x? X cube. So, kotta function, the given function I have written it in a rational form. X power 4 is one function, x is another function. Okay, x power 4 is one function, x is another function. So, my x cube, whatever the function x cube I have, I can write it as x power 4 by x. Okay, I can write it as x power 4 by x, where x power 4 is a function and x is another function. Okay, so if you can write a function in the rational form, okay, if you can write a function in the rational form, that is p of x by q of x, where q of x is not equal to 0, okay, where q of x is not equal to 0, then such functions are called as rational functions. Such functions are called as rational functions. Okay, so now what you have to prove? You have to prove that every rational function is continuous. Okay, every rational function is continuous. So for that, if you see the example, the same example, f of x is equal to x cube. Can I say f of x is continuous? Can I say f of x is continuous? If f of x is equal to x cube, yes. Why? Why it is continuous? Why it is continuous, students? Why it is continuous? What kind of function x cube is? It is a polynomial function. Okay, it is a polynomial function, and we know that polynomial functions are continuous. Polynomial function is continuous everywhere. Okay, so you agree that f of x is equal to x cube is continuous. What about x power 4? What about x power 4, whether it is continuous? X power 4, yes. Okay, what about x? What about x? Whether x is continuous? Yes. So we know that, okay, what we know, if you have two functions, f and g, which is continuous, then what about f by g? What about f by g, whether it is continuous? If you have two functions f and g, which is continuous, okay, which is continuous at x is equal to c, what about f by g? F by g is also continuous, correct? So every rational function is also continuous, because rational functions can be written as p of x by q of x, correct? Rational functions can be written as P of x by Q of x, where P of x is a polynomial function and Q of x is also a polynomial function. Okay. Given function can be written as rational function can be written as a quotient of a polynomial function, which means P of x is a polynomial function, Q of x is a polynomial function. So if you have two polynomial functions, if you have a polynomial function, you know that polynomial function is continuous. You only know polynomial function is continuous. So yeah, if you have a quotient, by the theorem we know that P by Q is also continuous. If P by Q is nothing but F. So a rational function is continuous. So a rational function is continuous. Why it is continuous? A rational function can be written as P of x by Q of x, where P of x and Q of x are polynomials and polynomial function is continuous. And what polynomial function is continuous, and then by theorem 1 from theorem 1, under that fourth point says that f by g is also continuous. So that we can say that the given function is continuous. So we'll stop here, students. We'll stop here. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now.